All right, peace. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, give honor and praise to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Give a double honors to 7130 South Chicago that taught me this truth. Give a double honors to all the brothers and sisters that the Creator has awoken in these last days. With that being said, peace and shalom. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to go into, a little quick lesson today. I want to be talking about the assassination of Charlie Kirk and how Charlie Kirk was gunned down by a sniper when he was out there in Utah sitting at a college talking about racial epithets about so-called black people and other demographics is because what he represents as a so-called white person, he represents the old guard of things, how white people ruled in the affairs of man, how so-called white people were quote-unquote proud to be prejudice and proud to be a bigot, see? And a lot of times he would go to these college campuses, he would demean and he would disrespect so-called black people is because, see, a lot of these folks, well, we're going to start to realize that say that they don't have a problem with the so-called Negro, but in fact, they hate so-called black people to the core. And another thing, too, is that the Creator in these last days are raising up these so-called white people to put them back into what you would call that racist spirit. And this is the situation that's finna happen, is that a lot of them is going to be destroyed in this third world war that we're living in. So the first scripture that I want to read from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, and I'm going to start reading at the 23rd verse. It says, "How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder?" And when we're talking about the hammer, we're talking about the might and the power of the American system, or the Euro-Gentile world power system. See, because back in the day, these countries bragged about being quote-unquote white. They bragged about going all over the world, conquering people, taking their natural resources and things of this nature. And now you have a situation where, and I've been saying this for the longest, this thing is going to get ugly between the American family. It's because America is quote unquote modern day Egypt, brothers and sisters. And what's going to happen is these people are going to be fighting with guns in the streets. And we're talking about the Democrats and the Republicans. It's because Charlie Kirk represents the conservative side of the things. And 9 times out of 10, the person that killed him was quote unquote a Democrat. See? But let's say, for instance, that the person that killed him was neither a Democrat or a Republican. See, a lot of times people will get destroyed or killed just to basically start. Certain people will lose their life just to upstart what you would call a major situation or a chaotic situation in the community. And, excuse me, Charlie Kirk represents white prejudice in the country. See, he hated so-called black people, and he hated certain other demographics of people just as well. So this murder or this assassination of Charlie Kirk is one of the things that's going to spearhead what you would call a civil war in the country. Because when Donald Trump became president, when he was running for president, you had a lot of people, you had 2 or 3 attempts on his life. And in my opinion, it may have came from the Democratic circles, but even if it didn't come from the Democratic circles, you have people that's behind the scenes. They look for things like this to take place so that they can be able to spark a major war amongst the people. And this is what's going on. So the scripture says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? See, when we talk about the hammer, we're talking about the American system. See, how has the hammer become broken? It's because the hammer was brought on the scene for a particular reason, brothers and sisters. The hammer, which is the American system, it was a system that was brought on the scene to bring forth, to house the so-called Negro, which is the natural and the spiritual seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is why the hammer is broken. What does the hammer symbolizes of? It's symbolic of the culture, the religious and the political system of the American system. That's what it represents. See? Because now what's taking place is that you're having what you would call white on white crime against one another. Another scripture that I want to look at is the 19th chapter of the book of Isaiah. See, the 19th chapter of the book of Isaiah. Because this speaks heavily about what's going on amongst the people. It says the 19th chapter of the book of Isaiah, the second verse, I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. See, so what is that? Before a system falls apart, it has to break down within. So the breaking down of the system within is the ongoing fighting amongst quote-unquote Americans. See, they're fighting against each other, the Democrats and the Republicans. See, this is what's going on. So we have 2 powerhouses that have ruled in the affairs of men in the American country. Now they're fighting against each other. And this is what it looked like when it says, how has the hammer become broken? It's because what's taking place is that the Creator is breaking the system from within. This is why they're fighting each other. This is why they're trying to kill each other. It's because this system is on its way out. See? And it says, I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. See? And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the dawn of an age. See, where the people, they so disgruntled with what's going on in the system they're starting to do what? They're starting to take matters into their own hands. See, they're starting to take matters in their own hands. They starting to kill one another. Check this out. 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, and verses 16. It says, "For there shall be sedition amongst men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor their princes." And it says, in the course of their actions shall stand. It says, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So when we're looking at the situation with Charlie Kirk, what's taking place is that you have strong political fronts. They're starting to fight against one another. See, they're starting to fight against one another. They're starting to kill one another in the streets. Because like I say, Charlie Kirk represents the old way of doing things. When the white man was proud to be a racist. But see, you got other races that's in the country because they're hiding behind the 14th and the 15th Amendment to the Constitution. They don't want this country to start to take on that type of ideology anymore. They comfortable with being presidents behind the scenes, using black people and other demographics of people behind the scenes. So when you have a person like Charlie Kirk that stands up out of nowhere and start to galvanize the people with different talking points of the old way of doing things, these people are going to emerge and they're going to do what? They're going to assassinate people like him. And because the elites of the Democratic Party are prejudiced and they're racist too. But see, they're hiding their racism behind different laws and statutes that has been signed and that has been implemented amongst the human family. So the 15th chapter of the book of 2nd Ezra in the 16th verse, it says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall be," it says, "and the course of their actions shall stand in their what? In their power." See? Check this out, 17th verse. "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able." And that's what's finna happen too. It's because you got to look at the 50 states of the United States of America as islands. They claim to follow the Constitution, but a lot of them don't even acknowledge the Constitution. See? So in a minute, these Democratic and these Republican cities are not going to allow other people to come into their cities if they're not Democrat or Republican. If they're not Christians and things of this nature, they're not going to allow you to be coming over there. And this is what's going to spark what you would call a civil war in the country. Charlie Kirk being murdered like this is nothing but a prelude of the civil war that is going to take place amongst what? So-called the Democrats and the Republicans, so-called Christians, so-called Muslims, so-called Jews. See, this is what's finna take place. It says the 18th verse, "For because of their pride the cities shall be troubled. See, and that's what's going on in the country. This American democracy and all this type of stuff that they're talking about. See, all of this stuff is what? It's a fraud, y'all. They don't care about the people. Charlie Kirk represents the people that's poisoning the water, right? That's poisoning the food. That's poisoning the mindset of the people. He represents, it's okay for them. See, they talk about the black community. They talk about crime and all this other stuff. But here it is, he supports other nations coming to the black neighborhood, setting up businesses in the neighborhood, and then they take all the money out of the neighborhood and they leave the neighborhoods bone dry. This is why you got crime in the neighborhood. It's because if you don't control the economical systems in your neighborhood, then you're going to have crime. See, and this is what he represents. Why do you think the Caucasians' neighborhoods are well taken care of? Is because why? They're eating off other people. So the reason why this man was killed is because why? He was a staunch racist. That's what he was. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, I'm going to cut this off. On to the next. Shalom.